Welcome back to Call of the Father. This will be the fifth episode. I've been teasing about this for a little bit here, and I think it's time to get into it. I'm just going to say up front this isn't easy to talk about, or it's not easy to admit to some of this. It's kind of a weird thing, but I suspect more people have dealt with things like this than want to talk about it. So here we go. I, this has to do with sex, and it has to do with sex in my marriage when I was married, and some things that as things went wrong. I want to start with some things about how I was feeling, and I also want to preface that I hope this doesn't come across like I'm a victim, because I'm not a victim at this point. I've done a lot of work to heal and understand the things that went wrong and my part in those things, and that's a big part of healing is accountability. In fact, it's the biggest thing that I can do to heal is take accountability for my part in things. You know, I think the next episode, maybe after this one, in fact, I'll talk about the day that I realized that I was no longer bitter toward my ex or the guy that she left with. She happens to be married to him now. And the day that I realized that I didn't have forgiveness, like a lot of things changed energy wise. I'll have to tell you about it in that episode, but it's unbelievable some of the things that I saw. Okay, so let's get into this. This is, again, it's just for the point of telling a story and showing where understanding came from and where healing began. And the point that I want to make is that men, like, we want to access a deeper emotional experience and share it in an intimate connection with someone else. But with all the programming that we get, and I've described what mine was with my dad, that you can't feel your emotions and it's shameful to try. And so I think a lot of men are growing up that way and unable to connect to their emotions. I think our emotions are the source of our power and ability to connect with our divine, authentic self. I really believe we can't even hardly know who we are without being able to connect emotionally to ourselves. So, in my marriage, I found some notes that I had written before the affair, and it was in a notes section in my phone, and I labeled it journal, and I'm just gonna read a couple things out of there and how I was feeling and how frustrated I felt, and then I'm going to explain how that started to play into other things that I'm going to talk about here. Basically, there were what was billed as trust issues, and in a lot of it, it was definitely kind of the blame was left on me. And in the end, I started to come to the conclusion that it's not all my fault. Definitely, there were other things involved there. I'm just going to read this. What I wrote in my journal at one point, and it looks like that was a good over a year and a half before the affair. I said, I've been thinking a lot about the quote trust issues that have been blamed completely on me, like I am the one having trouble with trust, so I am the one with the problem and the only one to blame. I've thought enough about it that I'm not willing to accept this conclusion anymore. There have been instances over the years where she could have shut things down out of love and respect and desire for me, but she chose not to because she apparently liked and or needed or desired the attention and flattery from someone else. If she would have shut things down on her own and not left an opening for this, it would have built up my trust in her. In the end, it leaves me feeling like I'm not enough for her and that she wants or needs more. I want so much to be enough for her that instead of liking and leaving a door cracked slightly and claiming to be innocent, she would close the door hard on everything else because I am what she would want. Um, I said it feels dishonest for her to let all of that blame fall on me. It feels like a lot of this comes down to her not ever wanting to admit that she's ever wrong. She's rarely given me an apology, and that felt very sincere. It feels like she can just justify everything she does, and if I have a problem with it, then that is my problem. I feel like I have to be the peacekeeper by always saying I am sorry and asking for her forgiveness when maybe I'm not always the one who should be. It feels like I had a set of balls when we got together, but she has slowly and methodically whittled them away. She avoids any conversation that will require work to talk through, and it ends up feeling like I'm not worth the effort. I feel like she is an emotional dictator using her stubbornness to always have the upper hand on me and refusing to ever be vulnerable or admit she is wrong. So I'm going to part from that now and just say, there's been a lot of healing, and I do see my part in things. Like, I brought a lot of programming, and I do believe that she has highly narcissistic tendencies, but I had highly codependent tendencies, and there's a lot of neediness and seeking approval. And there's certain things that, like, I really believe and hope that I can show up different in the next relationship. But that's where I was, and there was a big disconnect between her and I, and it just grew over time. I didn't know how to repair that. I wanted to, but if only one person's willing to try. I do think that a codependent person, when you point out their faults, if you can lay it out clearly for them, they're able to accept that. I was able to accept that. It's hard, it hurts, but I can accept my faults and shortcomings. Um, what ended up happening was basically in short term, basically the best way to put it is that I experienced kind of a loss of interest in sexual pursuit of intimacy with her. It started to it man, it hit a peak that you kind of won't believe when I say it, but I'm going to get there in a minute. Um, it was a hard thing. It got to where so many things were disconnected between us that I started to pull away in certain ways and give up. I believe that I just didn't want to. I didn't believe that it was ever going to come together. I felt very disrespected by her, and I didn't feel. I, it's fair to say that I was losing respect for her too. Um, and in that, I just there was less desire to try to make things work. Well, then toward the end of the marriage, or really like the last year, the year of the affair, basically, I think that she was kind of in. I think she saw some of this. I think that she saw that I was pulling away, and she didn't have as much. Again, not wanting to sound like a victim, but if you understand narcissistic codependent dynamics, she was losing control, and she wanted, in an effort to gain that control back, she took some certain actions, and one of them I was all game for, of course. She said she wanted to have a 30-day sex challenge, and I was all for it. Have sex every day for 30 days? Sure, why not? Let's try that. Um, it didn't go it didn't go as prescribed. It was there were hiccups, and just when you don't feel connected like that, it's a cognitive dissonance. What I experienced was cognitive dissonance between my beliefs. I was addicted to trying to please her. It was a performance, not a connection. I wanted that connection, but it was a performance, not a connection. Um, Basically, there were days when I felt like I got to go to work early in the morning, and it it felt like she's trying to drag it out. It kind of felt like she's trying to drag it out to keep me tired, or I don't know what the goal was, but there were times when I was just like, geez, she wanted to do this, and I couldn't say this out loud to her, but she wanted to do this, and now it's getting late, and I'm like, either we got to get it done tonight or I'm going to bed. Then there were times it didn't happen over that 30 days. And then she would say, well, yeah, we got to make up then. We'll do it twice tomorrow. I was like, yeah, okay. I don't know if I can. We'll see. And so I think we were behind. And then at a certain point, that felt like, well, what's the point of this? This is getting stupid. And then there was there was one night when I came home, and I could tell that she'd been drinking a bit. I was kind of excited to connect with her, and this might have been before the sex challenge, even. I think this was before the sex challenge. I'm sure that it was, because the sex was not even a part of it. I was on my way home from work one night, and I remember thinking, I can't wait to get home and connect with her. I just felt like I felt good. I don't know what I was feeling, but I just felt good, and I couldn't wait to see her, talk to her, connect with her. And I got here, and she was three shades to the wind. She was gone. Had drank enough that she was just not he I couldn't connect with her. And then that evening I was pretty disappointed. And then I remember going to take a shower, and I had forgotten a towel. I asked her, hey, can you get me she came in the bathroom to do something. I said, can you grab me a towel? She goes, yeah, I'll grab you one. She goes out, and then I'm waiting and waiting. Finally, I'm like yelling for somebody to come, and my daughter brings towel, puts it on the rack, and I come out, and she's laying in the bed, and I'm like, I thought you were going to bring me a towel, and she had no recollection of the experience. So there were things like this were making me very much more unamused and less of a feeling of connection. And so then when we got to the sex challenge, there was one night that it was getting late, and I knew I had to work, and felt like things are, and I was in a good mood. Everything, she was in a good mood. I thought everything was good. And she was in the bathroom. I'm in the bed waiting. And I'm like, hey, are you coming? And she snaps at me. She's like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. And I was kind of like taken back. Whoa. I didn't really expect that. And then when she came into the room, she said, this one, wow. She said, all I am is a hole for you to stick your dick in. And I don't even remember if she said anything after that. And I was just shocked. I was crushed. I laid there, and I'm thinking, I was I was just crushed. For one, I would never want to treat her that way or make her feel that way. I would never on purpose do anything to try to make her feel that way. I I felt like I wanted to show her respect and love. And the second thought was, does she feel that way? Did I miss something, and have I made her feel that way, and was completely unaware of it? I was so confused, and so I was crushed and confused, and it hurt, and I didn't want to hurt her, but I mean, I mean, looking back, in fairness, if communication's good in a marriage, hopefully you could talk about that before it got to that point and somebody felt that way. But anyway, I'm laying there and I'm just staring at the ceiling, thinking, I I just don't even know what to do or think or say. And she gets in bed, she lays there, I'm just laying there. And after a bit, she goes, "Are we going to do this?" And I just said, "No, we're not." And she fell asleep pretty quickly, and I did not. I could not sleep that night. I was pretty upset over it. And then I had to go to work real early in the morning. I don't know if I got an hour's sleep. I woke up, or I got up in the morning, whatever, was getting ready, and she came out of the room. I'm in the kitchen. I still remember she came out of the room and went to the bathroom. Then she came out of the bathroom and she walked toward me in the kitchen and she smiled like nothing happened. And she comes to give me a hug, and I must have had the look on my face. She goes, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "You don't remember, do you?" And she goes, "No." And I think I told her what happened, and she had no recollection of saying that. The fact that we didn't do it on our challenge, whatever. She didn't have any recollection of any of it. I didn't even care about the challenge at that point. I I wanted a connection more than that. To me, I kind of felt like I don't know why she wants to do this. I definitely want to have sex, but the perception is that guys see sex as it's kind of a backwards rationale that if we're having sex, then everything's right. If we're having sex, then she must respect me. Um, it's hard to dissect that, but really, it's when men are taught not to connect with their emotions their whole life. I mean, they're looking, just like I said, they want to they want to connect with feelings, emotions, and they want that experience. And so really that sex is how a man can feel that, even though he's not connecting the proper way. We need to teach men to connect with their emotions. It's where our power is. That's where so many things are. Anyway, so to move on from there, that's when then the next day I'm at work and I didn't talk to her that day. I was just really baffled and trying to figure out. I was upset. It hurt. Anyway, so I'm going to get to, this is just hard to come out and say. It got to a point at the end of our marriage where I wanted that connection. I wanted that connection, and the cognitive dissonance, the difference between my beliefs and being like I was addicted to trying to please her. Like I said, it was a performance, not a connection. And my I didn't believe that she respected me. I didn't believe that she really wanted me. I didn't believe that I was worthy of much. I was kind of beat down at a point there. And when we had sex, it got to a point where I couldn't climax. I couldn't reach a climax. I would help her get there, and that was part of that pleasing her, and I was addicted to that, and I wanted to do that. But then once that happened, I felt pressure, I felt distracted, and then it felt like basically she's saying, "Come on, are you gonna do it already, or what's going on?" And it just felt like too much, and I feel like my body, the that with that disconnection between my beliefs and my thoughts and my body, your body doesn't lie to you. your heart doesn't lie to you. And I just feel like my body revolted. It refused to take part in the lie. And I couldn't get there. And it was confusing. There was no ED. I mean, it was up the whole time. There was no problem there. But I could not climax knowing the difference between my beliefs and what I felt in my heart and my body. The connection wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't real. And so my body refused. And in the end, then I ended up faking it. I ended up faking an orgasm to get it over. Lord knows what would have been said or happened, or I mean, I'm sure it would have. In my mind, I think I felt like it would have been my fault, and she would have probably said it was my fault and something's wrong with me. Already, I'm thinking something's fucking wrong with me. What is going on here, Houston? We got a problem. I don't understand this. But then, man, to be even more vulnerable and make man, please understand this is really hard to talk about, but I hope it helps someone else. I hope it helps somebody open up and be real with themselves. Um, it was easier to fake it and let her think that was it and it was over. And then I had no problem connecting with myself later. Like I could finish the job on my own, but I could not get there under those circumstances. The connection was missing. And so I think that women perceive, or in society, it's perceived that women want that emotional connection and men don't. Men want it more than you know. Men want to connect, they want that, but they're not trained how to do that or that that's okay. And so I think there's probably more things, interesting things like this that happen. Let me look at this on a picture here. A good friend sent this to me, and it's so interesting. So, what they sent me is this term. It's called arousal non-concordance. And it says arousal non-concordance refers to a phenomenon where there is a disconnect between subjective feelings of sexual arousal and physiological responses such as genital changes or lubrication. In other words, the body may experience physical arousal without the person feeling sexually aroused or desiring sexual activity. And in my case, I probably would have added more to the end of that definition, but we'll just go with that for now. So, physiological factors. It says causes physiological factors: anxiety, stress, trauma, negative experiences can negative experiences can interfere with sexual desire and arousal. And I had the desire, I had the arousal. It was more of a disconnect for me with being able to reach that climax, feeling worthy. There was a block, and I really think it's my body saying no, I'm not going to do that. Still was all the plumbing was working. Anyway, this keeps going. Um, Cultural or societal factors. It says societal norms, expectations, or personal beliefs about sex can influence arousal. I think there's a lot there, man. There's commercials about drugs for erectile dysfunction. Probably plays into this. I don't have that problem, but I think this is a similar thing. Um, Under symptoms, it says feeling physically aroused, e.g., genital changes without experiencing sexual desire. Secondly, difficulty achieving orgasm. There's where I fall in, or maintaining an erection. Feeling indifferent or even uncomfortable during sexual activity. Lack of lubrication or dryness. So, man, that was kind of cool what my friend sent me, because it just played into this. And really, I think men want to connect more than people think, but we need to learn how, and we need to be teaching our kids how to connect with our sons, how to connect with their emotions. We need to get rid of these lies in our society about that. Okay, so after that, this went on. This basically kind of went on most of the rest of my that marriage, which wasn't very long. But I just faked it because it was just easier to, I don't know. I guess what I began to believe was that it was just all about her, and I cared about that. I wanted to fulfill that part of it, but I don't know that I even believe that I was worthy of um, my needs being met in that, and it wasn't worth it if it was an inconvenience to her, which is what it felt like. So after that, and after the marriage, I mean, this is another thing that's hard to talk about. Uh, I mean, it probably goes against some of my own standards, but there were rebounds for me after the marriage, and couple instances, and it's been a long time, and I've done a lot more healing since then. But I had sex with another girl after the divorce, and I I experienced this, and I was really worried about myself. It was just that pressure. I was used to the performance, and I faked it with her too, and I was really concerned. And of course, I mean, I think I was able to work through some of that in my mind then, but we had sex again, and I was able to climax, and I was like, oh, whew. But now what I've realized after that, like, there's been a lot of healing, and there's been a lot of searching. What am I looking for? What do I want in life? What do I want in a relationship? What do I want sex to be in my life? What do I want it to mean? And basically, like, I think that sex needs, for me, it needs to be an expression of an existing connection instead of a bid to connect with someone who I don't already feel connected with. That kind of basically sums that up for me. Um, Man, I really think that there's a connection here with the erectile dysfunction that a lot of men are experiencing, and the being trained not to connect with their emotions. And I sure hope that we can investigate this more as a society and be more open to it. Like, drugs don't fix these problems. That's a bunch of BS. We're just masking a problem. I mean, it's a psychological thing, and it's a body thing. And I think there's so much shame around sex that, we gotta feel our feelings. So this kind of, I feel like this ties into last week's message too, and just connecting with our emotions and creating a power that heals. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you next week. And I'm gonna commit to once a week now. This has been going well, and I enjoy it. I'm a little late this evening trying to post this one, but I'm gonna try to commit to posting, and it'll be on there when I update it. It'll say on the podcast platform, so I'm gonna try to make it every Tuesday, I believe, that I'll put a new episode. And I might do bonus episodes when I'm really feeling something in the middle of those weeks once in a while. So thank you for listening. Really hope this helps somebody out there. Have a great day.